Let's talk now to the chairman of the Guild of Public Affairs Analysts, Enugu State Chapter, Mr. Ambrose Ibuke, who joins us from the Enugu State Capital. Morning to you. Thank you for your time. Welcome.
Good morning, Laddie.
Let's unpack some of what we've been reporting. The G7 summit is rarely overshadowed by anything else, but on this particular occasion, they're not really talking about the development of their individual economies. Ukraine is the big cloud, the big elephant, shall we say, in the room, which everyone seems to be talking about. First, the issues on the ground in Ukraine and the issue of weapons transfers. The West, as represented by the G7, continue to make promises and to transfer weapons and money to Ukraine. But in Ukraine itself, the Russians are making advances, particularly in the east.
Strikes on the apartment building in Kyiv.
Well, first of all,
please go on.
Yeah, first of all, we must admit that Russia is a big elephant. Russia is a very formidable nation when it comes to economy, when it comes to sophistication of weaponry. But Russia is a permanent member of the Security Council of the United Nations. Russia is not to be pushed over. Therefore, no country, no coalition, be it NATO or be it G7 or whatever coalition you have, can frontally go against Russia, be it economically and be it in warfare. That has to be established. So I understand the dilemma of NATO and the dilemma of the G7. Some people have argued that they have been mounting this for a while. Why have they not supplied enough system to Ukraine? But we fail to understand that Russia has warned and drew a red line that if NATO tries to provide attacking systems to Ukraine, they will escalate the war and take it a notch higher. And NATO doesn't want to do that. Let's also look at the strategic economic importance of Russia in Europe. Most of the gas needs, energy needs of a lot of European countries are supplied by Gazprom. Gazprom is the Russian national oil company. And most of Europe is still dependent on that gas. In fact, recently, last week, Germany had to, fire up its coal energy center which has been abandoned for so many years now, because they are having a short supply of gas from Russia. So it is not easy. It can be mounted, it can be said in diplomatic circles, it can be press statements can be issued, but Europe cannot do without Russia. And so that is why when America, sometimes they have some kind of detachment from Russia because they are not dependent on Russia for a lot of economic needs, when they want to go at Russia, we always soften and say, hey, wait there. We have dependence on Russia. Look at the grains also. The issue of grain export from Ukraine that have been, the port has been blockaded. It's affecting Europe seriously. So even the G7 themselves, the members of G7, two of them are fighting heavy political battles in their home countries. Emmanuel Macron, who though won his second term, but his party lost in the legislative arm, and basically he's battling that and trying to figure out how the 4.5 years of his presidency will look like. The same thing with Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is having it tough in UK as well. So they're having their own battles to deal with at home. So, and then Germany is not too keen on, trying to put too much sanction on Russia because they are dependent on them. You can see the divergent views of the G7 members when it comes to imposing the embargo on gold, Russian gold. A lot of them said they are not ready yet. So this is where they found themselves. It is not an easy situation when you are dealing with a country like Russia that is very formidable indeed.
Let's look at the one that concerns the broader picture, and that's the fact that in spite of all of this, Russia is continuing its advance on the ground. Over the weekend, the Ukrainian forces had to withdraw from Severodonetsk, And just this morning, it's been reported that Russia has in fact captured several more villages, several more settlements on its way to the other big city, which it is yet to capture, which is Lysychansk, which is just across from Severodonetsk. Essentially, what the reports seem to indicate is that the capture of Lysychansk is inevitable. It may take some time, but it's going to happen. And subsequently, Russia will be in control of most, if not all, of eastern Ukraine, which it said was what it wanted in the first place. So at the end of the day, do you see that all of this, all the moves by NATO, the moves by the G7, the moves by the EU, essentially will come to nothing if Russia eventually gets its way in eastern Ukraine?
Just as you said, Ladi, we are just postponing, in quotes, the evil day, because Russia has made it very clear at the onset of the invasion that it was going to capture the eastern part of Ukraine, which is a Russian-speaking side, claiming that that side of Ukraine belongs to Mother Russia, and that they have to annex it, just the way they annexed Crimea, which it was the northern-speaking part of Georgia. So they are also ready to do this. They did it in 2012, and nothing happened. So they are going to do it again, knowing their place. You see, when you understand your position in the scheme of things, then you can behave the way Russia does. Russia understands its position. Russia understands its power. Russia understands its might. And Russia understands that nobody can threaten it because it is a code among them in the permanent member of the Security Council. Russia is a nuclear nation, bearing nation. Russia has the biggest armament, nuclear armament in the world. So which country or coalition of countries wants to try that kind of nation? So they are deliberate about it, and they will capture the rest of the eastern Ukraine and annex it. Because if they did it in Georgia, when they did in Crimea, and nothing happened, then nothing will happen this time around. So it will all come to naught, and it's very painful that it's the Ukrainian people that will suffer for this, because they are innocent citizens. They are not in a political chess game. This is about muscle flexing between NATO and Russia. It has nothing to do with the welfare of citizens of Ukraine. It has nothing to do with the advancement of Ukraine. So it's all about muscle flexing when it comes to sphere of influence for both NATO or United States and Russia.
Before I let you go, I must ask you about this. You did mention or talk about escalation in your answer to the earlier question. And I wonder what you make of the fact that Russia is promising its ally Belarus that it is going to hand over, shall we say, or arm it with nuclear-capable missiles to defend itself against Lithuania and Poland, which Belarus is claiming have made aggressive postures towards it. Okay, I understand.
Well, then, why are we having this?
Please go on. Please go on. We lost you for a second there. Please start again. Just give us the answer to the question. The Iskander missile is being handed over to Belarus.
Well, I didn't get your question about that.
My question was that Russia is handing over, it says it will hand over in the coming months, Iskander nuclear-capable missiles to Belarus to help it fight off what Belarus is claiming to be aggressive motions made by Lithuania and Poland, who are both members of the EU. Is this not an escalation or a widening of the conflict that has so far been limited to Ukraine?
Well, it's an escalation already, but I'm sure that Russia will not hand over attacking systems, because there's a code, there's what you call MAD in international diplomacy, MAD, which means mutually assured destruction. Mutually assured destruction is a concept which says that we mutually have what it takes to destroy each other. Therefore, we make sure that we don't activate that arsenal that can make us destroy each other. So if you watch what NATO has been giving to Ukraine, It has been defense systems also. Russia will also give the defense systems to Belarus, as Belarus is claiming. Now, the war is widening. It is no longer NATO, Ukraine, Russia. Now, Belarus is getting involved. Before you know it now, other nations will get involved. That is how World War starts. That is how the First World War started. That is how the Second World War started. And people who are starting this war are always Europe. First World War, Europe. Second World War, Europe. Then they will drag the rest of the world into it and call it World War. So I think at this stage, we don't need any world wars, in quote, because those wars are not actually world war. But sometimes it affects, because of how the world is being structured, being a global village, it tends to affect the rest of the world. So Europe should spare us these kind of human carnage and, disquiet that we are enjoying in the globe, and try to come together to work out a solution. If Russia wanted, if Russia speaking part of Ukraine wanted to be part of Russia, that's what we call the plebiscite. That's what we call referendum. I don't know why that route was not taken. And then all we have is war, invasion, testing of weapons, and all those kind of stuff that's going on. So it is not good news that Belarus is even joining in the fray. It's not also good news that Russia is making advancement. It's not also good news that the West is still talking tough, despite that the people they are pushing in Ukraine are still at the short end of the stick. So something needs to be done urgently, and that thing is roundtable. It's negotiation and not weapons.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Ambrose Igboke, Chairman, Guild of Public Affairs Analysts, Enugu State Chapter, for your time this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ladi, for having me.
After the break, U.S. to announce purchase of advanced missile defense systems for Ukraine. Please join us here.